Hello, everyone. We're here at MTAC Blackjack. This is going to be a historic interview. Happy to, yeah. Well, I think for MTAC, happy to welcome back in 2023, Marin Miller. Marin, welcome back to MTAC.
Hello, so good to be back and under a shiny new name.
Yes.
The other one felt a little outdated, so I shortened it down, got rid of some letters, and now I'm here as Marin Miller. It's nice to be here.
Hell yes. I would like to get into some things because we've had the pleasure of talking to you in the past, and I feel like it's important to talk about being a trans non-binary actor in Nashville at this particular time in our country's history. But before I do that, and that is not to say that what I'm about to do is more important. It is not. However, I am in the dream making business. It's my understanding that your New Year's resolution for this year is to get paid for your Danny DeVito impersonation.
Yes.
I've got $5. What does it get me?
What's a good Danny DeVito line that you like?
May I offer you a nice egg in this trying time?
Yeah, perfect.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's Easter. It's great. It's perfect.
Thank you.
You've earned your pay. Thank you. Thank you.
Dreams have been made today, everybody.
Yes, that's right.
I can go buy McDonald's. I'm so excited.
Yeah. You can buy like a McNugget in this economy.
Yeah, right. In this.
Yeah, those are two great things to throw in where they don't belong in conversations. Number one, in this economy, and also not with that attitude. Shout outs to Amanda Miller.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's crank it back over to the serious side for a minute. This is your first appearance at a con as Marin Miller. Tell us a little bit about the journey that you've been on.
Well, I want to say probably around 2017, 2018 is 2016 is when Yuri on Ice came out, and that was something that was like, being gay is a little different now because we're starting to see media that's made more like it's not specifically for queer people, it's just queer. And in that show, Yuri Kotsky talks about being more comfortable with expressing himself in a feminine way, and a lot of people started talking about how Yuri Kotsky was non-binary. And it was kind of hard to argue with that logic because he was very explicit in the way that felt more comfortable for him. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that is gender expression at the end of the day. And it wasn't something that I really thought about very much, but I started hanging out with more actors. And one of those people was Casey Mangelo. I hung out with them at an ice skating rink because I started ice skating because of Yuri on Ice. And Casey is one that has been very open about their gender journey, that they are not cis. And it was not something that, I'm not very close friends with Casey, but it was something that I've kind of watched from afar and, been silently in support of, but never really understood. And then the two of us finally kind of met, and I asked, what is your gender expression? I didn't know what to say, how to ask the question. So I was like, what are your pronouns? What is your gender expression or whatever? And then, Casey told me, they were like, I don't fucking know. And then I was like, fair. But then they asked me what mine were. And I was like, nobody's really asked me that before. And I've never really had to think about it before. So I don't really know. But I'll get back to you. But I just kind of was going along with the idea that I was a woman because it was the most, it was shoved down my throat my entire life.
Right.
But, the more I started thinking about it, and I got called back for several Sailor Scouts, namely Sailor Uranus and Taika, I think, was one of the stars. And the reason why I was recommended by several established actors, including Sam Riegel and Stephanie Shea. Sam Riegel was a shock because we've never really worked together. But that's, I think, how kind of why they needed to stretch their arms to find as many women as they needed for that show. But when I was getting these auditions, one of the people that had recommended me was like, yeah, I was trying to push the studio owner to audition gender nonconforming people. And I was like, am I gender nonconforming? I don't know. I guess I am. And that's when I started thinking yeah, I cut my hair short. People kind of react to me in a very masculine fashion. And, I've always been reacted to very differently just because of the way that I've built and the way that I express myself. So finally, I started getting cast as non-binary characters, namely Izanami and Be the Beginning was the first one. And then Enkidu was, and Be the Beginning, it was really a novelty. It was not something that was focused on. And that was in like 2017, I think, maybe 2018. And that was when I really understood that I knew that Yuri was non-binary, but Yuri is also a very masculine presenting person because he exists within a conservative society. But Izanami is very like they wear a skirt. They have weird clown makeup on. They like speak in weird poetry. They shoot guns. Like they're not they kind of walk a weird line that is not easily definable. And like they had pitched this character to me as that. And I was like, at the time I was like, oh yeah, I'm a pretty like masculine person. It makes sense you would want me to voice this. And then I started realizing, oh, this is an actual identity that I can associate with. And then when I just remember like coming out of an Enkidu session and I just felt like this euphoria. And like, trans people always talk about feeling gender euphoria. And like for such a long time, like I've been wanting to act since I was very, very young. So acting has always been an active part of my identity. And like the characters that I have been put into a lot of times do not feel comfortable because they have a very rigid performance of gender, particularly women. And I would like, constantly have people, I would feel like people would treat me as though I was a poor actor because I did not perform to those standards of femininity. And it's like, it's not that I'm not a good actor, it's that I express myself in a way that you do not find marketable because you are not used to people that express themselves the way that I do. And when I came to that realization, like, it was when I was cast as Enkidu, and like, whenever when I was cast as Mosan, it wasn't quite as often because she in Fully Cooley she was more masculine, like rough and tumble. But like there was still a feeling of like a little bit of rigidity. Like I needed to worry about how to present the voice. But when I was Enkidu, there was none of that. Like all of these things that I had been scolded for whenever I would present as a woman was something that they would be like, yes, more. And that was something that was really exciting to me because it felt like I was doing something right and it felt like I was doing something unique because it was something that I'd never really heard anybody else do before. So, but I knew that when I was coming back, that I was feeling things that were like I felt very free in that character. I felt like the gender didn't matter, that I could just be a person and express myself. And that was something that I never really had a chance to do because I'm usually a utility player and those characters are very limited. But like coming home, I was just like, this feels right. I think I'm non binary. And like, I know that these characters are going to be more prominent. And if I keep accepting these roles, especially living in a state where I'm not in as much physical danger as other people that have a similar identity, it's just going to make them feel more erased. Even if I am accurate to the role, if I do not tell them what I am, they're still going to look at me and be like, that's a cis woman. And like that solidarity, that feeling of like, I can succeed, these roles do exist, and there is a niche for me to fit into. Like that's why I ultimately decided that like it would not I would not be doing myself or anyone else any favors by keeping that stuff to myself. So I came out as non-binary in like 2019, I think, after right before Enkidu came out, because I decided that it would be wrong for me to not announce before, because I knew Enkidu was a non-binary character. They were explicitly referred to as they, them. And I, when that sort of coding happens, it's not an accident. So I wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page and explicit about that. And then, it took a while, but I started learning more about, well, and even before that, like, it took me learning about certain kinds of gender affirming care before I was like, yes, I am trans. Because there is a spectrum of non-binary that do not include trans people. And during that time was when I just kind of used she and they, and then I would, I still used my birth name. But as time went on, like, you start realizing, oh, there are things that you're in denial about for a really long time, and you start putting all those things together, and when you do, you're like, yeah, okay, these things, I can start making these decisions. So, I mean, a lot of my transition has been throughout the pandemic, because I came out, I want to say, in like August of 2019. And then I started taking hormones around my birthday in 2021, I think. So I've been on them for about well, maybe actually it might have even been 2020. But either way, I've been on them for quite a while, and like, it's, I have to say, it is very bizarre to suddenly find. I mean, like, I say suddenly find myself, but like, because I walked into this identity knowing what it would mean, but I couldn't quite imagine, the aggressiveness of which the culture around trans people would evolve in such a short amount of time. So that's been a interesting, but it's something that I don't regret, and I'm having a great time.
Yeah, you'll have to forgive me. I'm trying to connect with this because obviously a big source of privilege for me is I am white and male and cis and
Mm.
hetero. Like that's obviously a big source of privilege for me. So there are a lot of things in your journey that I'm trying to connect to in a way that makes sense with my own journey because I do think there's something very precious in the notion of that freedom, that euphoria of, you know, I feel like people in a lot of walks of life can at least familiarize and identify with the idea of just having that sort of oppressive feeling about who you are, whether it's from childhood trauma or just something else in somebody's lives. You know, unfortunately, a lot of people tend to experience things that once it's happened to them, it hurts them and it oppresses them for lack of a better term. You just kind of carry it all of your life. And I feel like with like mental illness, that's something that a lot of people, including myself, have gone through where they just like carry it and carry it and carry it and carry it. And they don't know how to feel seen and heard and understood by other people. And so I think finding that not necessarily through others, but for yourself, that has to be an incredible moment in your life.
It's funny because, it's not quite one moment. It's a lot of moments, like
Right.
there you have, but it is like, we all have that narrative of like, I'm sure all of us feel like, especially at an anime con, we've all been bullied
Sure. Sure.
for one reason or another. And
Fucking
like,
nerds.
yeah, we're all fucking nerds. And like, it's kind of like you start thinking about the kind of insults that you get depending on what you look like or whatever, and that stays with you. And like when you have things that, because basically it's transness is not just the social, it's also the physical.
Right.
So when you have the social like beating you down because your body does not match with whatever they want from you,
Yeah.
and then when you feel a physical disconnect with your body, because like like obviously the expression was just a social thing, and that's why I didn't feel comfortable identifying as a trans person right away. But then I started noticing and looking back and recognizing patterns of sexual things that I felt unfulfilled by as well. And so like when you start realizing that other people have similar patterns of interests as you, and that it's not something you need to be ashamed of, it's something that needs to be communicated and understood, and it's okay to not like understand every part of it, then it becomes like much less of a burden, like I I'm doing what I can to change what I want, and like I feel like every trans person is like kind of carrying the burden of like reality.
Yes.
Because like we each person has a different idea of what their ideal form is, right? Regardless of whether or not you're cis or trans, we all have an ideal body. But trans people have a spectrum of sexual organs that may or may not exist in reality that would make them feel more comfortable or more empowered to be the best version of themselves. And I don't know, it's just sad that so many people can't be more open-minded to that sort of stuff, because at the end of the day, like, transness is nobody's business but mine and whoever is sleeping with me. And if you're not investing in my sexual wellness, you don't deserve to know anything about my sexual parts. That's just the long and short of it. But
Right.
like when we think about our bodies, like if there is some sort of a disconnect between the way you feel inside your head and the way that you are manifested on this awful planet, it really starts to get to you. And, like people might call it mental illness, people might call it coping. Yeah, okay, I'm coping, but like I'm having a great time. I'm a functional member of society. Like I had to find a way of like, because what was happening before wasn't working. I just hated myself and I was miserable all the time. So it's about finding a version of yourself that you love enough to want to fight for. And if that person doesn't happen to have the same genitals, so be it. But like I get that it's confusing for a lot of people to not understand the that things don't quite match. And I'm sure that even cis people have feelings of like, oh man, wouldn't it be great to be a chick and like have boobs, or oh man, I'd love to have a dick, or like we all have those days, but like just like with mental illness, it's not about feeling sad. It's about feeling sad 3 to 5 times a week.
Yeah.
Like if you're being that affected by something,
Yeah.
then something has to be done. And like it's just medical treatment for some people, and some people don't even like, it's too much. Like I don't know if I would ever want to get surgery personally, because
Right.
you're laid up for a long time, it's expensive. There are a lot of, and that's what I mean, like we're kind of juggling with reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so there's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
Like, and speaking of juggling reality, we have just recently gone through like a global pandemic that kind of changed everything all over again. And now we're back at cons.
Yeah,
They're happening again.
it's so surreal.
Right. And I'm sure for you it has to be like triply so because, you're a whole new you and it's a whole new thing. It's a whole new, like, it's all weird.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I've come to MTAC, I want to say 6 years. And when I came in this year, it didn't really feel that different at all. I mean, I acknowledged before I came, I was like, yeah, this is the first con I've ever been out as Marin Miller, and like obviously Hades and Nimbus have come out since then, and I didn't know what to expect, and but like everybody's been really nice, and would have I didn't even clock that it was something that other people were weirded out by until another con chair stopped by, and I was like, oh hey, so and so, and they were like, oh yeah, I didn't know how to do this.
Oh,
Mar-
yes. Oh, gosh.
and I'm like, oh yeah, this is a little awkward, isn't it? But I do feel that way about like more so at home, like especially because I'm starting to go into studio more, and like I'll see actors that I know, and like especially like I'm probably one of the most aggressive maskers left in LA, but like it's really weird like being like, you can't see half of my face, I recognize you, do you recognize me just from my hair or from my voice, and do you even like me? I don't know, it's been 4 years since I've even looked at you. Like, so yeah, it is really strange. And like the thing that people don't understand about being trans, especially coming out during a pandemic, is like you have no idea how people in the real world perceive you, especially when you're a non-binary person. Like, and the bathroom conversation is such a central topic point, and it's so fucking stupid because like um I always hear like, if I see a woman with stubble, I'm gonna punch her in the face. Well, I have stubble. Every woman has stubble. And if we have just the wrong amount of stubble, you're gonna assume that we want to like hurt you, So and that's what I mean by perceptions. If somebody just assumes, because it doesn't matter if you're cis, it doesn't matter if you're trans, that person assumes, and like it's a lot to process, and it's difficult to try and cope with being in a world where you have to like make decisions as to whether or not you will survive using a public restroom. But I honestly, coming out here, like I did talk with the staff, and they were very upfront about the fact that like they wanted to make sure they hired security organizations with like the right kind of people that were employed, and that they were in full of support of what was going on, and aware of the fact that like my identity might cause complications with local law enforcement if somebody was weird. And thank Christ the anti-drag ban was suspended before like a few days I came out here, so there was no concerns there. But also like it's so frustrating too, because so much of the conversation revolves around trans women that would I even be part of the problem? And then it's like, okay, it's a messy thing. But
Just let people pee in peace. That's
yeah.
all they want.
Yeah, so I mean, like, it's a really tough time for trans people, like, because in many ways we're feeling more comfortable and confident in our skin than ever because we've had very nice little insular, theoretically, those of us who have had the privilege to work remotely and thrive in online spaces, we feel very comfortable in our digital skin. And then now we have to try and cope with the anxiety of being in a world where people are hostile if you wear a mask, where people are hostile if you're trans, where people are hostile. Gotta love it. Anyway, this is very depressing.
Well, I want to thank you for just willing to be open, be honest, and just sharing your experience. I think it's just super important, and I'm really grateful that you're able to share that with us.
Of course. I'm glad to talk with you guys always.
And how kick-ass is it to be Nimbus?
Oh my God. I love it so much. It was really funny because, like, when I was doing the work, I was like, this person's so pure, they're so cute. And, like, and then when the stuff started coming out, everyone was like, they're so hot. And I did not realize that everyone would want my Ussie so bad. And it's funny because, like, it's hard for me to deny because people are like, that Ussie is face height. And I'm like, yes, you're not wrong. But my God. And God bless them. I love how thirsty the people are for Nimbus. Like, I love seeing the art. My husband would show me art of, like, people with their guardians, like, and their heartbeat. Like, the ghost would be like, Guardian, your vitals are off the charts. And then it'd be like, shut up. Or, like, Nimbus riding his little surfboard and the Guardian hanging off the bottom and stuff. Oh, it's so cute. I just love, like, how much potential there is for Guardians to have fun with Nimbus in their headcanons because they're just such a fun little character, and I think, like, that's what people really wanted out of that character. And I got like a bit of negative attention from the usual suspects off the top, but, like, oh my God, the people who Nimbus was made for, they love Nimbus, and I love Nimbus, so God bless them.
Right?
They're so cute.
Well, you've got places to be, so we'll let you go. But thank you again so much.
Thank you, guys. Always nice to hear from you. I'll see you again next year, probably.
Thanks for listening to yet another production of the OSMcast, your podcast for everything awesome. You can find us online at awesomecast.com, OSMcast.com, or, wherever you find your podcast, just search for OSMcast. You can also find us on the social medias, OSMcast at Twitter or on Facebook. Of course, you can also find our wonderful interview guru, the greatest living interviewer, John Robbins, at J5 is Live. Or perhaps you'd like to follow our amazing editor, Anna, at Angel Darkfire, or just me at It's Basil Time on Twitter. Our theme song is produced by DJ Inabito, and you can find him online at djinabito.com. And once again, thanks for listening to the OSMcast. We appreciate you.